Lottery. Nothing more callously subscribed to hubris than life insurance. Nothing so belittled the majesty of the human spirit as life insurance. They wanted to make an amusement park out of their world. A video game. A surrogate life experience. In its web of complexity, the modern world suggested a need for this kind of insurance. If the Creator wants to take you out, we can limit the liability to your loved ones by a life insurance policy. They'll hardly know you're gone, except for the fact that you will be gone. Keep the machine going. God cares for he who cares for himself. The insurance companies were second only to the banks. Cobb could see death. It was one of the dark gifts given to him by Crow. He could not predict death. There was still chance to contend with, and there were still other forces that diluted death. There was no lust in death. There was patience. But when a person was close to death in themselves, its presence could be apprehended. And life insurance policies were like a lottery Cobb created for his amusement. After all, government had given gaming to the Indians. He had only filled out a few policies. They were expensive to maintain, and the people he was insuring smoked, drank, had used drugs, all of which he openly declared on the forms. The premiums were much higher, and the insured had to go for a physical. But when death was around a person, it could be as little as 6 months to call them out of the world. Death never stopped whispering once it found someone to whisper into, and only the fates could call a person back from its whispers. There was a knock at his door. He got off the bed and went over and opened the door. Martin Fisher walked in and sat down at the table. He took out some tobacco and started to roll himself a cigarette. His hand shook and his hair was dry and wild, and springing off his head like wild grass. He was 44 years old, but he looked closer to 60. He had been on the streets since he was 16. Cobb felt a deep movement inside of him as he shut the door and looked at Marty shaking his way to a tightly rolled cigarette. Cobb walked over and handed him a Marlboro. "Thanks," Marty said. Cobb sat down and got right to business. "Occupation?" "Jesus, Cobb." "Right, sorry. You play the harmonica, don't you?" "I do." And with that joyous admission, Marty pulled a harmonica out of his pocket and began to play a little tune. "Nice," Cobb said, and he wrote musician in the occupation field of the life insurance form. "Address? Here." "Right," Cobb said, "right." Cobb wrote his parole officer's address down. Paddy Pape used a communal mailbox, and Cobb had already had the key duplicated. When he was finished the form and Marty had signed it, he handed him a carton of cigarettes. "Geez, thanks, Cobb." "Are you hunting cops tonight?" "No, not tonight," Cobb said. "I'm just amusing myself with some background sound." End of chapter.